Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content. All right, so Shedeur Sanders, Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, and Kenny Pickett. 4 quarterbacks here. Browns have to figure out how to have this competition. How's it going to work out? I think there's a number of things you wonder with this whole situation, because there's a lot to wonder, and we're going to talk about it all offseason, right? There's how are the reps going to be divided between these guys, which I think people are making that complicated. It's really not that complicated. I think there's a very simple answer to that, and a simple categorization for how that's going to go down, that I think people are just not misunderstanding, but not really thinking through all the way. It's not as complicated as people think. There's another question of like, what do you see out these quarterbacks, right? And there's a question of like, what is the path going to be for one of these rookies to be able to see the field this year? Because it's not going to be an easy path for these guys to see the field. So let's start with the first question. What does the snap count look like in training camp, right? How does this work? You got 4 quarterbacks, 1 football, 1 first team, right? Like you only got 3 teams to work with as far as first team, second team, third team in camp. How are you going to split up the reps between 4 quarterbacks, right? Because usually what happens, starter takes the starter reps, second string takes the second string reps, and then you get 3 and 4 to split third team reps, which could be how things go down. Here's what I think. Joe Flacco is 40 years old. Joe Flacco is ultra experienced in this offense. Nobody has more experience in a Gary Kubiak system than Joe Flacco right now. Joe Flacco does not need to take the reps for the Browns to evaluate him and for him to get ready for the season. Like, he just doesn't need the reps. So this isn't going to be like every day the Browns are splitting the reps between all 4 of these guys. I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Flacco's rep count during training camp is relatively low. I understand people are like, oh, well, you need to build up chemistry with these guys. But Joe Flacco has demonstrated that he's a veteran enough quarterback that he could build chemistry in a very short amount of time with all the guys that he's worked with. And he's already worked with some of these guys for 6 weeks. Right, David Njoku, he has chemistry with him. If you bring back Elijah Moore, there's chemistry there. You can bring back Amari Cooper for all it's worth and work on the chemistry that they had back then. Jerry Jeudy, there's some new chemistry that needs to be worked out there. And I'm not saying that Joe Flacco doesn't practice at all, but Joe Flacco's not going to be on the same practice schedule that Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders are going to be on. You know. So that kind of solves itself. You got a 40-year-old quarterback who you're trying to get to week 1 and who's likely going to be the starter. That dude doesn't need to practice a ton, right? You can evaluate if you want to start Kenny Pickett over Joe Flacco based on what you know about Joe Flacco in this offense and what Kenny Pickett's doing in practice. You don't need Joe Flacco taking 20 snaps in practice all day in order to do that. So I don't think that part's that complicated. Kenny Pickett's going to take the bulk of the snaps in the training camp period, and then it's going to start with Shedeur and Dylan Gabriel battling it out to see who gets the bulk of the second team reps. And based on how those two are competing, one's going to get more reps than the other. Then if one of those guys looks like they can compete with Kenny Pickett, then Kenny Pickett and that person competes for the backup spot. Joe Flacco's going to start the season. He's a veteran quarterback. It's who they brought in to start. He's going to start the season. What we also know about Joe Flacco, he's probably not going to finish the season. Joe Flacco has not finished a season as a starting quarterback in a very long time. Joe Flacco has not played 17 games or 16 games since 2017. So it's a safe bet that Joe is not going to play every game this season. But Joe's going to play the first couple months. I think that's the plan. After Joe plays those first couple months, it all comes down to whatever happens in camp. And I think the competition between Kenny Pickett, Shedeur Sanders, and Dylan Gabriel will be fairly open. Maybe I'll be surprised by this, right? Maybe they give Shedeur more hurdles to clear if they feel it's necessary because of the reasons why he fell. But I think it's going to be a pretty open competition between those three. Why? Because, well, the Browns have spent similar amounts of resources on all three of these guys, right? Kenny Pickett, they brought in with a 5th-round pick in DTR. Shedeur Sanders, they brought in with a 5th-round pick in 2 6th-round picks. And Dylan Gabriel, they spent pick 90 on. So you have spent enough resources on all three of these quarterbacks to where I think you're going to try to roster them regardless of what happens or what the order is. Or if you're not going to outright cut them, you're going to try to trade one of them to get something back if you can. And if you can't, then you're going to roster them. So I do think there's going to be a pretty open competition between these three in camp for who's going to be first up or who they feel the best about after Joe Flacco. Now, here's also where things can get interesting. Unless Shedeur Sanders is undeniable in camp, and when I say undeniable, I don't mean he's pretty good. I mean he's Russell Wilson in 2012 good. He's Dak Prescott rookie year training camp good. Like undeniable. Like you have to play this dude. There's no getting around it. Unless he's that good in training camp, he's probably going to be the last in the rotation to start. My thinking on why this is going to happen is pretty simple. Who do you trust to play in an NFL game? Right? Let's say they all have pretty good camps. Who do you trust to play in an NFL game if you're Kevin Stefanski? Well, first is Joe Flacco, the former Super Bowl MVP, the ultra experienced quarterback, the guy who won you 5 games in 2023. That's the guy you trust the most to play in an NFL game. Unless somebody is undeniable in camp, then Joe Flacco is going to play at the beginning of the season. He's the guy who they will likely trust the most to play in these games. Who's second on that list? Kenny Pickett, because he started like 14 games in the NFL. He's won most of those games. He was the backup quarterback for the Super Bowl champion, and he started games last year for the Super Bowl champion. Like, regardless of what happens at camp, that alone is going to make Kevin trust this dude in the game more than a rookie. So he's going to be second in the rotation. Unless somebody in camp, Shedeur or Dylan Gabriel, is undeniable. It's going to be Kenny second. Right? Or if like Shedeur's close to undeniable, then maybe he gets second in this rotation or Dylan gets second in this rotation. But let's be real here. Unless like you get the most spectacular free offseason performance from these guys, not offseason, but preseason performance from these guys, probably getting Kenny Pickett second. Now, Kenny Pickett's turn with the football could last 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 days. But he's going to be second up. Right? He's going to be the guy they turn to second. Then it's between Dylan and Shedeur, and I think they would lean towards Dylan if things were even to see who they give the rock to next. And that's simply because Dylan Gabriel has played way more football than Shedeur Sanders. He's older than Shedeur Sanders. They would trust him in a game a little bit easier than that. Now, again, if Shedeur puts together a body of work that makes them trust him, then fine. But probably Dylan gets in before him. And then Shedeur gets the last one. Now, I think there are a number of strategic reasons why Shedeur will be last up in that cycle. It's not because he's the worst quarterback of the bunch. It's because he has the most potential. And what you want to give Shedeur, if you throw him out there, is time to play bad and learn from it and improve. Because if he's the last guy you're throwing out there, then there's not going to be a reason to bench him to the end of the season. If Dylan Gabriel goes out there but Shedeur ain't played, there's a reason to bench Dylan Gabriel. If Kenny Pickett goes out there and Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur ain't played, there's a lot of reason to bench Kenny Pickett. If Joe Flacco goes out there and plays bad, well, there's a lot of reason to bench Joe Flacco. But if you've played all these guys and then Shedeur gets out there, well, then you just got to see what you got. And I think that's what the order for it's going to be. For those reasons. Not because Shedeur isn't more talented or isn't good enough or because the Browns have it in for him. I know people are already cooking up silly theories like Jimmy Haslam forced the Browns to take Shedeur. That's not how fifth-round picks work. I doubt Jimmy Haslam cares who they take in the fifth round. The Browns traded up for Shedeur because they like Shedeur enough to take him where they took him. Like, considering everything else around him, they said, hey, that's worth the fifth-round pick. Okay. Maybe this is them thinking they need a lot of fire under his ass in order to get the most out of him. Maybe this is because they're worried about something else. But if he makes the team, and it's an if he makes the team, like, I don't want to guarantee anything. Nothing's guaranteed when you're a fifth-round pick, even though he's close to guaranteed to make it because they did spend 2 sixes to get him, right? But nothing's a guarantee when you're a fifth-round pick. If he gets in, that's the guy you're going to want to see the most, right? Dillon Gabriel, you're not going to need to see a ton from because he's old. And if he's good, he's good. If he's not, he's not. He is who he is at this point. Shedeur is the one that can get better. Kenny Pickett, not going to need to see a lot from him, right? Did he get better or did he not? Joe Flacco, he's 40, man. If he's playing good, he's playing good. He stays out there. If he's not playing good, then he doesn't play. It's pretty simple. There's no, he's not going to you're not going to hang on because he might be better at 41, right? Like, there's no upside there for Joe Flacco anymore. There's a lot of upside for Shedeur, and the guy that has the most upside should play last. Unless, again, Shedeur's undeniable in camp. Maybe not so undeniable that he supersedes Joe Flacco, but so undeniable that they trust him second most to play in an NFL game, despite all of that. But it's going to take a lot. And I think the expectation should be set. It's going to take a lot to see these dudes early in the year, either Dillon Gabriel or Shedeur. It is not guaranteed that they're going to play year one. We might get a whole year of Shedeur being on the roster without him playing in a regular season game. It's not crazy to think that that can happen. Now, it's Cleveland. We get injuries at the quarterback position every year. All these guys are probably going to play, whether the Browns like it or not. But it makes sense that both these guys could not play, or one of these guys could not play. That could also happen. Either way, that's how I see it shaking out. I think the reps are going to be split in camp between Kenny, Shedeur, and Dillon primarily because Joe doesn't really need to take that many reps at this point of his career in order for you to trust him. Again, this is a guy who demonstrated his ability to get chemistry with the team in like 6 weeks. He already knows David Njoku. He's pretty familiar with the offensive line, most of the guys there. What he has to get familiar with Jerry Jeudy. He's pretty quarterback friendly, so that'll be able to be done pretty quickly. It's not going to take him a whole training camps of work to get reacclimated to being in Cleveland. It's going to take him it's not going to take him that many times. I don't want to put a day on it, but he's not going to need the most reps, right? The guys who are going to need the most reps are the younger guys, the Kenny Pickett's, the guys who ain't never been in this offense before. And you're going to want to give the most time to Shedeur Sanders, who has not switched offenses before, who has not had to, he's learned a new playbook before, give him the credit for that, from switching to Jackson to Colorado. But, this is probably a bigger transition for Shedeur than it is for Dillon Gabriel, so you're going to give him the most time. So that's how I see the whole battle shaking out. And we'll see who actually wins. I'm not going to make any predictions on that yet. But that's my thoughts about this quarterback room, what that competition could look like. I know people are projecting this like it's a mess, but it's really not a mess, if I'm being honest with you. The Browns don't have a quarterback. Like, they have 4 on the roster, but they don't have a quarterback. So they're going to give chances to somebody who's going to play and somebody who wants to start. Again, Joe's not going to play in many preseason games, or if he does, he's not going to play in that much of a preseason game. So there's going to be a lot of quarters for Shedeur and Dillon Gabriel to play, right? It's a lot of second halves in the preseason, a lot of reps in joint practice for these guys to take up. So I think they'll be able to figure it out. Having 4 quarterbacks that you want to get a good look at is not a bad problem, right? It would be worse if we had 3 quarterbacks on the roster that we did not care to get looks at because we did not think they could have the possibility of being good, right? Having 4 guys there, 2 rookies, that you want to get a look at, that's better than not having anybody that you want to get a look at. So I think this is a better situation than last year, given the performance of two of those guys in that quarterback room. We'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. You have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.